Adam Barron, visiting fellow and Yemen expert at the European Council on Foreign Relations. But first, here's Al Jazeera's diplomatic editor, James Bays, reporting from the UN.
The UN Security Council sending a tough message to the Houthis. Before them, for a vote, a resolution calling on the group to withdraw from all the territory they've taken in recent months, including the capital, Sana'a. The resolution passed, but with one significant abstention by Russia. It had wanted an immediate ceasefire. Instead, there will be humanitarian pauses organised by the UN, but in conjunction with the government of President Hadi, which, like most Security Council members, including the US, supports the Saudi-led military operation.
The Houthis, working in close coordination with former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, have intensified their military campaign, bombed Aden, and extended their offensive to Yemen's south. These actions have caused widespread violence and instability that threaten the security and welfare of the Yemeni people, as well as the region's security.
The Council decided to extend sanctions and an arms embargo. They'll now cover the three most important Houthi leaders, as well as former President Ali Abdullah Saleh and his son Abdullah. But what if the Houthis don't comply? Could that lead the Saudi-led coalition to a ground operation?
The entire military operation today is the product of the non-compliance of the Houthis. So if they are not complying, they will continue to face more of the same.
The resolution says that humanitarian pauses should be organised by the UN Secretary-General in conjunction with the government of President Hadi. But Ban Ki-moon has said he wants immediate face-to-face talks. He says ultimately there's no military solution to the crisis in Yemen.
That's Al Jazeera's James Bays reporting. Well, let's cross to London now, where we find Adam Barron, visiting fellow and Yemen expert at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Adam, the Houthis have called for street demonstrations against the UN sanctions. Iran is preparing a 4-point peace plan to submit to the UN, and Russia says a ceasefire is the way to go. Is Russia right on this occasion?
I think when you look at it from just the humanitarian standpoint, it's hard to argue that the war can continue as it's going on without some form, at very least, of a humanitarian ceasefire. At this point, Yemen is under a very strict naval blockade, so that means food and fuel is not going in. At the same time, you're looking at clashes which have disrupted the pace of daily life across the country, in addition to taking Yemen's main power plant offline. So I think there really is a case for a ceasefire here. Because in addition to all of this, there's the fact of the matter that this is something that won't be solved by just fighting. This is a conflict that has to be solved, in my opinion, by some sort of negotiations.
Given that the Houthis have now taken control of much of the country, is it wrong to read into that there's a high degree of support for them?
Oh, no, I think that's completely true. The Houthis would not be able to do this if there was not a significant amount of support for them in Yemen. That being said, I think it's key to remember that the Houthi support kind of varies by region. So in the northwest of the country, I think you do have a significant amount of support for the Houthis. But in a lot of the areas where they've expanded to recently, in the south of the country and in the center, there's not as much support. Notably in the port city of Aden, you've seen a tremendous amount of popular opposition that's literally led up locals, regular people, to take up arms against the Houthis and put up quite a fight.
Last week we spoke with Khalid Al-Harimi, the editor of the Yemen Times. He says a large swathe of the people don't support either side in this conflict because what they see is civilian deaths and the destruction of their society from both sides.
Yeah, I think that's quite accurate. Bushra al-Makhzari, one of Yemen's most prominent and principled activists, wrote an article for the New York Times the other day basically saying the key now is to get both sides to stop fighting and to allow the silent majority to get on with their lives. And I think the sad thing is you see external actors, rather than moving to solve this conflict, almost pushing, whether on the side of the Houthis or on the side of the exiled government, pushing the situation further and further away of some sort of peace plan that would allow Yemen to, take a break to put the pieces back together.
So given what's gone on in the rest of the region and what is still going on in the region between Shia and Sunni populations, is there a solution for Yemen?
I think there still is. While this conflict is being viewed as a sectarian one, it is in its essence in Yemen a political one. It's notable that even though we refer to this as Shia versus Sunni frequently in the media, for example, the Houthis have a number of Sunnis fighting alongside of them. Further, there's a lot of Shias in Yemen that are opposed to the Houthis. So I think the fact that this is as it's a political conflict makes it something that's inherently something that you can solve. That being said, particularly with its external involvement, it's taking a step towards a much more intractable conflict with a much more sectarian tone that is engulfing much of the region, which will make it far more difficult to bring to an easy end.
So will this UN resolution have any impact at all?
To be honest, I think it will have a very minimal impact on the ground. What we've seen looking at the UN's influence in Yemen is that regardless of what you think of them, the UN's action tends to be overwhelmed by factors on the ground in Yemen.
All right, Adam, we'll leave it there. Good to talk to you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam Barron visiting